Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this journey of what does reclaim mean. And we have brought in so many of these authentic, core, amazing superstars of how they have discovered, defined, and are the testaments of what reclaiming does mean in your life and your journeys. In this 360-degree discovery, we really have dived in and asked for anybody who really wants to bring a deeper story. And we are blessed to have one of our next guest speakers joining us from New Zealand. And again, this is something that you might not realize is that your world might be turned upside down just because you're actually supposed to be somewhere else where it's really meant for you. We are super excited to welcome in again more of the testimonies about why your life, your journey, and your purpose might be bigger than sometimes what we can see. So we would love to enter and call in Kaylin into our journey here.
Hello, thank you so much, Shanice and Brody. I'm very happy to be here. Is everything good? You can hear me?
And we can hear you, and everything's ready to rock and rumble.
All right, let's begin then. Um, I just want to take a moment of gratitude to thank you both for putting on this amazing event and asking me to be part of it. So, I just want to start by saying, my name is Kaylin. I own Triple R Coaching, and I also have a podcast with my friend named Mel, and it's called Naked and a Little Bit Afraid. So those are two places you can find me. But most importantly, I am an authenticity seeker, meaning in a world that just feels so fake and is full of so much contradicting beliefs and thoughts, I look for what feels real to me and what feels right for my soul. And that's who I am to my core. So today I'd like to take this opportunity just to share my story from going from like autopilot to completely burnt out to listening and trusting those little whispers within. So, my intention today is by me sharing my story and sharing this analogy that came to me actually not too long ago. I hope that it leads you to, I hope it sparks something inside of you and it leads you to maybe your next puzzle piece. So, I'm not here to convince you of anything. I'm not here to sell you anything. I really am just so grateful for this opportunity to share my story. So let's start with the analogy that came to me after Shanice asked me to be part of this. I really sat with, what does reclaiming your life mean, and how does one reclaim their life, and how does this align with me? And so I was really sitting with that for a while. And this analogy just came to me, and it just was that life is a puzzle, that only your soul knows the whole picture. So life is a puzzle that only your soul knows the whole picture. And I love this visualization of my soul seeing the box of the puzzle, and it knows the whole picture. And we all have this. We've all had those moments, like whatever you want to call them, those downloads, those gut intuition feelings, just inner knowings, soul whispers, whatever you want to call them. We've all experienced that feeling that rarely makes sense on paper, but it's just this knowing. It's just this like, I have to do this, even though it doesn't make sense. And that is why we get those, because our soul has seen the whole picture, but our brain hasn't. So I want to share with you some experiences in my life where I was brave enough to trust those soul callings, even though it scared the shit out of me and also didn't necessarily make sense. So this is your invitation to view my puzzle. And I want to just have this disclaimer because I think I've spent so much of my time comparing my messy puzzle to other people's masterpieces. And I have lost so much joy and so much uniqueness out of doing that. So I would just want to invite you to come and view my puzzle, knowing that it's not a comparison, knowing that this isn't the end all be all, knowing that because certain things worked for me, they might not be part of your puzzle, and that's okay. I'm just inviting you to view it. You're going to take the pieces that fit in your puzzle, and you're going to leave the rest that doesn't fit. And that's life, right? We're going to meet people that spark something in us and lead us to the next puzzle piece. And actually, Shanice has been a very, very good person for me in that. She's given me lots of puzzle pieces that have led me to other opportunities. And then whatever doesn't fit in your puzzle, you're just going to leave. Okay, so I want to take you back to a time in my life where I was forcing pieces that did not fit in my puzzle, and I was also trying to build someone else's puzzle. That was not true to me. You see, I did everything right. I followed society's formula for happiness. I went to school to pay a bunch of money to go back to school, to get the career, to find the partner, to get the house, to do all of the things, and it left me feeling extremely unfulfilled and empty, which I didn't get because if I followed this recipe for happiness, why am I so miserable? So I thought, it must be me. I must be broken. I must be the problem. Like, I look at other adults and they're doing the adult things. Maybe it's just something's wrong with me. So I bought into everything that would make me happy. I tried everything and it just left me more and more empty. And that's the crazy thing about when you follow society's formula to happiness and success is it leaves you empty. And when you feel empty and broken and that you're the problem, then they can sell things to you. And I got caught up in that for a while. So I acted the part. I just shoved that sadness deep down. I just continued to try to just go through the motions. But the reality is I chose societal norms and pleasing others while I abandoned myself. I stopped living and lost myself in the doing, so I didn't have to feel the feels, which forced me on autopilot for a very long time. And what we all know probably by this point in our life to be true is when you abandon yourself to fit into societal norms and to try and please people, that can only last so long. So I was on autopilot until one day I was sitting on our lazy boy chair, just zoned right out, trying to avoid my miserable life. And I took a sip of my coffee and I just remember looking down and saying, when the fuck did I start drinking black coffee? Like, I had been going through the motions. I didn't even realize that it came to the point in my life where I couldn't even be bothered to put cream in my coffee anymore. And that, amongst a whole heap of other things, was my wake-up call. That is what got me off autopilot and forced me to look in the mirror and realize I don't recognize that soul that is looking back at me. I have lost myself, and it is time to reclaim my life, which is a very freeing yet scary realization. How the heck does one reclaim their life? How the heck does one find themselves after years of abandoning themselves? And I can tell you something. There ain't no 12-step program out there, because I looked. I wanted to find a rule book. I wanted to find a manual. I wanted a quick fix. But the reality is I had no idea. But this tiny little whisper told me, Kaylin, drive to work a different way. I'm like, what does this have to do with anything? Like, this is ridiculous. And if I go to work a different way, it's going to totally throw me off and the whole world's going to fall apart. And there's no way I can do that. But it just was so persistent. So I did. I drove to work a different way. And you know what? That was a puzzle piece. That was a piece of my puzzle. That was proof to me that I can trust that little voice, that I did drive to work a different way. The world did not fall apart, and I got out of my comfort zone, and everyone was okay. So I just want to hit pause here and really push this fact of like, reclaiming your life may not start earth-shattering. It may start small, and that's okay. But the thing is it's proving to yourself and the universe that you can trust those inner knowings, that you can trust your soul. So, started to drive to work a different way. And then that little whisper told me, it's time to quit your career and sell clothes with your friend that just opened up a little boutique. And I was like, absolutely not. This does not make sense on paper. That's not happening. I'm not giving up a pension, more money, and benefits to sell clothes. But guess what? That little voice was like, you are. So stop fighting it and just do it. So I did. I started selling clothes. And then I got that little whisper saying, it's time to leave your relationship. And leading up to this, almost every night I would lay in bed and picture, like, if I had to go, how would I pack up this house? Like, how would I put all of these things, all of my belongings in boxes? Like, what would this process look like? But I was like, it's never going to happen. Like, this is, I think I love this guy. This is my future. I've already invested 7 years. We have mutual friends. We have a house, all of the things. Like, I'm in it. And then that little whisper said, no, it's time to go. And I was like, no. But then part of my brain was like, but what if? Like, what would that look like? How would I do that? I moved out of my grandparents' basement to college to this house. Like, I've never lived by myself. How would that look? And I kid you not, the next day, our family friends' rental property, the renters just up and left. Middle of the night, pieced out. And so it became available. And I just thought, And then that little whisper said, this is your way out and you need to take it. And every single excuse was in my brain and I was petrified. But I did it anyways because that 1% told me to do it. But 99% of me was like, this is crazy. Don't even. But I did it. I left the relationship. I got the new house. And you know what happened? I, for the first time, was living on myself. I was feeling good. I'm like, I'm an independent woman. I got this. Things are great. And then COVID happened. And I was very, very alone. I was forced to be with myself, where my worth was taken away from me because I was getting all of my worth from my job. And not only the selling clothes job, but also teaching the fitness classes and all of the things. And I was forced to sit with myself and think, what parts of me still need healing? What do I bring to the table? What is my purpose? How do I reclaim my life? All of these questions, And I got the time and space to sort through that. And then I realized that the clothing job taught me that I got to see women in one of the most vulnerable places, the change room. Well, I didn't see them. Let's be real. But they came out of that change room and they pointed out all of the flaws. What they thought were flaws, they pointed them out to me. And I saw how broken and insecure we all are. And it made me realize that all of these moms that I was dealing with in these change rooms, were super unfulfilled and they were trying to parent out of this place of emptiness. And I needed to do something about it. And that is where life coaching came in. So do you see how all of these tiny little pieces that my soul gave me is starting to link together and lead me to more and more things? And so then I started my life coaching business, started doing retreats. Everything was great. I was loving my life. And then I decided to also go into some adult education. Awesome. Giving back to my community. I loved life. My relationships were happy and healthy. I just was making such a beautiful community for myself, and I was very happy. And then my friend from New Zealand had to come back to Canada and say, "Why don't you live in New Zealand?" And I was like, well, no, that's not possible. No way. My friends and family are here. Absolutely not. But that little whisper said, "Why don't you live in New Zealand?" And I'm like, "Because we have a page and a half of reasons why we don't live in New Zealand, okay? Like, we're happy." And then I thought to myself, I'll just go for a month for my birthday. That's what I'll do. So I told my friend, and she said, "No, you're not allowed to come unless you get your working holiday visa." That's it. I'm not going then. But that little whisper was like, "But what if? What if you were just to get your working holiday visa?" And I said, "Okay, if it's meant to be, it will be. I'll apply, and if I get approved, I'll go. And if I don't get approved, I won't be upset about it." So I applied on a Tuesday, and I got approved that same Friday. Okay. Shit. Now I'm going to New Zealand. So I had to explain to people that I think I'm going to go to New Zealand because I feel like it's the right thing to do. And again, it's like that 1% kept me going when that 99% was like, "Pump the brakes. This does not make sense. You are happy. Don't leave everything you know for the unknown. Absolutely not. Don't do this." But I did it anyways. And then I got thinking, well, how the heck am I going to afford to go to New Zealand? Number one, I need enough money to prove to the government of New Zealand that I can be in New Zealand. Number two, I need a plane ticket. Number three, I don't got a job there. I don't have a vehicle. I don't know how anything happens in New Zealand. Like, how am I actually going to do this? And what I learned is the how is none of our business. It really, truly is not our business. I committed to going, and then I realized that that pension that I got from my job from working at the school, I thought it was locked all these years, and it turns out it wasn't. I could take it out. Ta-da! So that was crazy. Right before I went to New Zealand, the bank called me and said, "We got to review. It's been a year. Like, let's review your finances, blah, blah." And I discovered that. And then you know what? Money just kept on showing up in the most mysterious ways. And that's the crazy thing about the universe and trusting these soul things is it doesn't need to make sense. We don't need to know how it's going to happen. We just got to trust. And the thing is like, it's hard to trust because things work out better than we could ever imagine. But it's like the universe is so expansive that we can't even imagine all of the magic that can happen because we can't comprehend it. So don't worry about the how. Just friggin' do it. Anyways, so then I thought, okay, I'll move to New Zealand. Obviously, this is what my soul wants. Let's go. And it's going to be like life-changing. I get to New Zealand, and guess what happens? I learned that you have the same shit no matter where you are in the world. And then I felt very lost because I'm like, I'm in the promised land, universe, soul, I'm here, I listened, now what? And I was forced to wait. And I'm not a very patient person. So I just kind of chilled for a month and a bit, and I was lost. I didn't know what to do. And then I decided that I would listen to that little soul whisper again, and I'd go to Bali. I said, if it's good enough for Elizabeth Gilbert, it's going to be good enough for me. And that's going to change my life. I'll go to Bali. So I made that decision. I booked my tickets. And before I left, I went to the pub with one of my friends. And this group of guys came and sat beside us, and we were just chatting with them. And then this man said to me, do you have a job? And I said, no. And he's like, would you like a job? I said, no, I'm going to Bali. He's like, well, when you get back from Bali, let me know. I have a vineyard. Can you swing a hammer? I said, too pretty to swing a hammer. That's not going to happen, but thank you. And so then I moved on with my life. I went to Bali, and Bali was a life-changing experience because I really started to play around with this idea of surrendering. I said, okay, if my soul wants me to be here, if I got this calling to be in Bali, I'll let it lead the way. So despite my planning self, I decided to make zero plans, that I would just show up in Bali and I'd wing it. I'd trust my gut intuition. I would see where it led me. And that was hard. But I landed in Bali. I met amazing people. I went to so many crazy, awesome things and did so much spiritual healing. And I just kept on finding the right places at the right time with the right people, and just needed, and I just needed everything that my soul needed. I got it without planning. And I said, whew, this surrendering thing, it's tough, but God, is it magical? And I remember sitting in this huge bathtub, like it was this huge bathtub soaker in Bali, and like it's like this kind of private area. You're within the jungle, and I'm just sitting in this bathtub with leaves, like beautiful plants all around me. And I thought to myself, you know what, Kaylin, you remember when you were in that 7-year relationship in that house you guys got together, and you were sitting in the bathtub and you thought, there's no way I can leave this bathtub. There's no way that I can leave this life I know. And now you're here in Bali in a bigger bathtub, living your best freaking life. You remember that? I just couldn't believe it. I could not believe that that was my reality. So then after Bali, I really learned the significance of fully surrendering, and I really got to take my spiritual practice even deeper. Coming home from Bali, I was sitting in the airport worried about, okay, I've officially taken 3 months off with zero work. What am I going to do? So I remember sitting down and I'm like, okay, I'm going to manifest the perfect job, because that's what we do. We got to manifest things that we want. And I sat down and I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what kind of jobs there are in New Zealand. I don't know what I want to do. So then I just didn't do anything. And I got on that airplane and I heard that little whisper again, and it said, ask the girl beside you if she's from Blenheim, which is the town that I'm living in. I said, no, piss off. Like, I've just been flying all day. I don't want to talk. I don't want to have small talk. Like, get out of here. And then I heard it again and again. I'm like, okay, fine. So I turn over. I'm like, hey, is Blenheim home for you? And she's like, da-da-da-da, told me some things. And then we ended up having a huge discussion about education. And turns out that she's a CEO of this adult education place here. And I was like, well, I'll be damned. And then guess what happened? She invited me for an interview that week. And I was like, all right, this is just getting a little creepy. And then 2 days after I got home, the guy from the pub messaged me and said, the job is still yours if you want it. I said, oh my God. So I went to the interview, and that place hired me to start doing some like wellness courses and stuff like that. And then I messaged that guy back and I was like, look, like, I don't have a vehicle. I don't know where you live. I don't know how to swing a hammer, really. I don't even know if I'm going to like this. And so he sent me his location, and lo and behold, the people that I was living with at the time, it was on the way to their work, so they could drop me off every morning. I'm like, how is everything working out so well for me? Like, why is things flowing with ease? Like, I went from chaos and stress and everything, and now things are just flowing. Like, this is getting weird. So I started working for that guy. It was the perfect location. And I learned so much about me. I learned how to build my confidence. I learned how to do things that I never thought I would do. And now looking back, this puzzle piece of working in a vineyard was exactly what I needed. And I'm still there to this day. That random man I met in the pub has been my boss for over a year now. And he has just taught me so much. And that vineyard has healed me in ways that I never thought was possible. So then I was like, things are just fabulous. And then I thought I met my soulmate. We healed together. We dreamed up a beautiful future together. And then a few weeks after his 30th birthday, he died. So it's really easy to trust the universe, to trust your soul, to trust your purpose when things are going really well. But when you get a curveball like that, it makes you question everything. It really, really, really tested my trust. And this soulful life that I was living and the fulfillment I felt and the joy, it all turned gray. I just didn't understand how your whole future can shatter in seconds. I don't know how you go from dreaming and healing and loving and talking to someone every day to grieving them. Just like that. So I remember getting so mad. I was like, I don't want this to be part of my puzzle. This is not the picture that I envisioned. This is not how this was supposed to happen. This is not how my picture is supposed to look. This is not the future that I envisioned for us. And this is one of the hardest pieces of my puzzle I have ever been handed. And most of us, unfortunately, know how hard it is to figure out where grief is supposed to fit. I held on to that piece, not wanting to put it into my puzzle, full of denial and anger and confusion. I held on to it for so long. But when I finally came to this place of acceptance, when I finally was able to see where it went, I learned some very valuable lessons. I learned that, number one, I'm not in control. I really am not in control. You know, you can manifest, you can dream, you can do all of these things and try to envision your whole picture. But the reality is you don't know. You're not in control. You have to trust the process. Number two is I learned that life is very fleeting. And number three, I learned that man taught me that despite all of my shadowy bits, I am still worthy of unconditional love. And number four, I learned that withholding love makes loss even harder. There is no limit on love. You have an infinite amount. Be brave enough to love and don't let that fear of losing it keep you from experiencing it. By placing this very heavy piece and learning these lessons, it led me to my current partner. Ironically, I met him through the boss dude from the pub. And our relationship does not make sense on paper. And it has went by so fast. Like, we've hit a lot of big milestones, and it's just flown very fast, which has left me extremely scared. But when I get out of my head, because I remember my head hasn't seen the whole picture yet, and I get into my heart and I trust those soul knowings, it just reinforces that my soul truly does know, and my brain tries to get in the way. You see, none of this makes sense, and none of it has turned out the way that I thought it would. But the less we fight it, the better it gets. So I just want to just really reiterate that we can't lose ourselves in the picture we think it should be. We need to let go of those expectations and trade them for appreciations. We really need to learn how to appreciate every piece we're given, even when it doesn't make sense, because we can't see the whole picture yet, but our soul knows the way. So I just want to leave you with some tidbits for you to ponder. And one of them is like, I think about this all the time when I think back on my journey, especially when I'm doing these really scary things that don't make sense to me or other people, and the people that I love the most just want to keep me safe and protected. They think that they should like give me pieces or force different pieces in my puzzle. And my advice to you is that's going to be everywhere. You know, society's going to do that. The people you love the most are going to think that they have the right pieces for your puzzle. And that's amazing. And sometimes they do. And that's our responsibility to take those pieces and see if they fit in our puzzle. And if they fit, awesome. And if they don't, that's okay. Let it go. Stop forcing things. If it doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. Move on. Because you gotta stop abandoning yourself to please others. And in conclusion, I want to leave you with this. This came to me the other day when I was working in the vineyard. There are no wasted pieces. There will be pieces that may leave you feeling like a failure. They may leave you feeling heartbroken, lost, overwhelmed, scared, and devastated. But those are arguably the most important pieces that you will need to make up the whole picture. When we let go of our expectations, look for the lessons, and stop taking things so personally, then and only then will we be able to appreciate the way the picture is coming to be. So I challenge you to reclaim your life by trusting those little whispers within, because your soul knows the way. And I just want you to ask yourself, are you going to be on your deathbed appreciating the masterpiece you have created? Or will you be forced to look at a puzzle with all of the missing pieces? Thank you, guys. And I know that we have some extra time here, but I just wanted to, leave it there, I think.
I just sat through literally a soap opera feeling. I hated that. I literally yelled across the room because I finally got a 2-second break, and I said, "What?" That is exactly the reality check when we have these second guessing fears about everything's good, nothing's gonna harm us, and it just hits such, not even a bottom, it's like an abyss moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's been a roller coaster, I'm not gonna lie, and I only put a few little tidbits in there.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's why we have the Niche Nation, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, because a lot of people will always, oh, do you just make that shit up? Right? When we talk about journeys, life, existences, stories, all of that kind of stuff. And I think that's the reality check that, just because we got to those good moments doesn't mean that the world and the work is over. Like, this is a constant state of existence. And for those that, you know, are just really weird, like working through this and wheeling through it, you know, then they're like, well, why should I even leave just this then mundaneness? Why don't we just drink our coffee black, right? Um, I think giving that awareness now, in my belief, I wouldn't trade it for the world, right?
Mm-hmm. And I just want to say, like, one more thing about this puzzle analogy that piggybacks off of what you said. And I think it's like people look at me and they're like, wow, you know, you're just living your best life in New Zealand. It's so easy for you to say. And that's where I'm coming from with that comparison of puzzles. Like they see the masterpiece I've created, but they weren't there seeing me put the pieces together. And I'm grateful and like thank you for admiring my masterpiece, but know that these things don't happen overnight. You know what though? Sometimes when you're trusting your soul, they do. So I don't want to say that, but I do think that, you know, we can look at people's lives and think it must be easy for them, but you know, we all are on such a unique journey, and the reality is when you are living true for you, you're bound to have a beautiful life. And it doesn't mean that it's going to be an easy life, but it means that there's going to be a whole lot less suffering when you just learn the lessons and keep moving forward.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because in the current stage of my studies right now, the one teacher, she said, you choose your price. Choose it now or choose it later. That's the only way you get to choose your price. And I think that's sometimes the bigger reality checks of what this reclaiming means. There's a price to pay in order for this to actually exist and happen. And do we, you know, boo-hoo or just die in our own essence again because that's damaged in this good, you know, garden and, you know, museum that should be everything protected and covered? You know, this is where people have a lot of questions about this discovery of reclaiming, because what happens if there's more damage to something we've worked so hard to get at? And that
there will be. You got to learn to let go.
yeah.
Like if you would have told me 2 years ago, even 2 and a bit years ago, like, you know, you're probably going to jump on a plane, you're going to go to Bali, you're going to live in a country across the world. No, I'm not. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not willing to give up my current life for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because why would I? It's
Mm-hmm.
unknown. It's scary.
Well, it was so interesting because even just like in the connections that we had, and like when I was in Victoria, and then we did another podcast together, and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna get like land and I'm gonna build a retreat space and I'm gonna do this all here and I'm gonna stick around Alberta and I'm gonna do these layers. And then to just now on our last podcast we did together, you're like, I don't even know if I'm going to align with my coaching name or if I'm even coaching or what that even might be at this point.
Yeah.
You know, like that's just some of the checks and balances about how big that recovery of our discovery actually is, because that will show you so much more of the depth that we are so blind to knowing what we are actually made out of.
Mm-hmm. And I think that that's maybe where I truly believe in life coaching. I really do, but I also think that there was some damaging beliefs now that I see the whole picture of being like, you have to have it figured out. You have to have a 5-year goal. You have to set goals, have step-by-step direction and achieve them.
Mm-hmm.
And you do sometimes, but you also have to be open to what if? What else is there? You know, and who knows? I probably will still have a retreat center, but maybe there'll just be 2 or 3 around the world. I don't know.
And yeah, and I think that's where, you know, we definitely feel that kind of ripple well. Everybody thinks it's all glam and glory to have this huge place and this view and these layers. Well, I only grew up with 900 square feet in my whole existence. And I couch surfed for most of my career of Shanice's Niches,
Mhm.
hoteled it, crashed and visited friends and things as we journeyed through it. But to everybody else, that just looked like the bomb.com life, like you stated. And that's where you looking at other people who come home every night and have a family and have supper on the table or have a nanny or things like that, you can compare it to every keeping up with the Joneses statue you can think of. It comes back into, what do you actually really need?
Mhm.
What do you actually
You.
want?
You.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. And that's just so much decoding and deprogramming and like sanitizing and triple syncing it to make sure it is, swabbed clean by the end of it and then yet thrown into a sterilizer again. Like there's a whole procedure about discovering what YOU means.
Yeah. And there's this whole like society really wants us to be dependent on it. And so we're trained from a very young age that we look externally.
Mm.
But the moment that I started looking internally, that is when my life changed. Like, oh, this works so well for this person, like it must work for me.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. And
Hmm.
that's okay. What does work for me? What does my soul need? And people are like, it's not that simple, Kaylin. And I'm like, you know what? Go into a room and spend 5 minutes by yourself and just listen to the noise of your
Hmm.
brain.
Hmm.
Listen to it. And then when it gets finally tired, guess what happens? Your soul gives you the answer that you know you've been avoiding. You just have to be courageous enough to trust it and go.
Hmm. Yeah, and some people, think that they've got to go and walk the Inca Trail and they think that they have to go to Machu Picchu and they have to go through all these big, extravagant movements. Some are guided to that, yes, because that's
Mm-hmm.
for you to walk that journey and that process. But a
Mm-hmm.
lot of reality check is just finally you cleaning out your closet and saying, I don't need to hate myself because I can't fit into the 5 different styles of jeans I've been waiting to fit in. I
Mm-hmm.
am not hating myself because I had to sell that project car, because that's maybe what I was just trying to relive to be something I connected with my dad with, right? Like there's just some realities that can be just so basic in your own purse, in your own vehicle, like understanding those bigger life soul quests that we seek for are just seeing, are we good stewards just to our basic things and our needs in order for you to actually take care of that? Because what happens if you did know that your pension from the school was open and you blew it because that's just the way we depressively live, and had nothing in a resource to keep it for the retirement of just the old life,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right?
And I think that I had that realization also when I was in Bali, because I went to Bali with the expectation of I'm going to be living Elizabeth Gilbert's life. You know, it's going to be an eat, pray, love situation, and I'm going to find someone that heals me, and everything's going to be fine. But when I got to Bali, I was like, this doesn't look anything like Elizabeth Gilbert's, and the only palm reader I can find is like not legit. It's touristy. It's a touristy trap. I'm like, well, what I've made a great mistake. I shouldn't have came to Bali. Then I really got thinking about it and I was like, oh, Elizabeth Gilbert just took a year off of her life to trust the process. Maybe I should just trust the process while I'm in Bali and realize that my process is going to look different than Elizabeth Gilbert's, and
Mm.
that's okay.
Yep.
So I got my own story.
Yep. Oh man.
I did Bali my own way and it was perfect for
Yeah.
me.
I am just in such, just, it's almost kind of like just a pausing right now of just giving everybody a little bit of that space to just kind of check this all in,
Mhm.
because I think once that flame, like that fame and glory and all these things behind the backgrounds when you would actually turn around the camera and show, like, what are you actually existing in. I think that's what's the bigger purpose about why we're collectively working with everybody here today, is to show that there are other layers to all of this, and to show you the different stages, instead of you thinking, well, that's what just my triple R coaching says. That's just what Shanice says in her niche nation. Like, it's just these layers of getting away from these identity crisis, that everybody thinks it's so figured out, because they're just looking for somebody, like we've chatted in other sessions today, is just like they want it validated so flipping bad. But it's the same part of just coming back into love.
Yeah.
Was that love just not enough for just why that moment was so real and honest and pure in that exchange, and why it was, quote, cut short and the good die young moment, because that was the only way you were ever going to believe in love? Because truthfully, do you think you would have actually walked down that aisle, or would have you pulled the rest of the movie and said, fuck you, I'm done, I actually don't love you, I can't do this, and then you guys do this romantic banter back and forth and finally come together? Well, who knows if any of that soul could have sustained that hurt or that despair or that distance. It said this was what you needed and this is what's enough. So sometimes we have to stop. I talk about this a lot in grief, is that sometimes we just have to stop feeling so greedy for wanting more, when everything that they gave us was plenty and enough. Do we miss them? Yes. But that is where we're trying to stomp our feet to making something miraculously come and be different when they're already still there. You just have to embrace it in the way you will understand it, and quieten yourself till you hear it, or burn yourself out deep enough, like you said, to finally get to that point to listen to it.
And I like what you said about greedy too, because it's like, yeah, you can look at death, and obviously I felt like I got robbed of my future. But really, it goes back to also what I said, is like I traded my expectations for appreciations. And like, just because it didn't end the way that I expected it to, doesn't mean that I can't sit here in appreciation and be like, that man taught me the most valuable lessons I have ever learned. And that's pretty significant to know that you did that for someone.
Yeah, that's true love. That's unconditional, not needing any more of your time, space, energy, pain, suffering, good, bad, or ugly. That was enough.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah.
I'm just shaking in the core of my existence right now. We have some comments here.
Cool.
Thought-provoking piece, and it was so true. Let it go. And the Elizabeth Gilbert currently is in a whole different reality now. It would be interesting to get her Bali perspective currently. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting once you kind of give it the time and space to journey through it, because then you get to kind of discover more what this exact moment of you sharing this story would look like in 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Or like, what pieces are going to make it into, like, if I were to give a speech on my deathbed, what pieces would I hold on to? What pieces would be worthy of talking about? I think it's just, yeah, it's very interesting to think about. But I hope that analogy helps people, and I hope that it just simplifies life. It's just like, does this fit? Yes or no? Moving on. And the pieces that we resist the most is why we feel stuck, because the pieces that we resist the most are the ones that are going to give us more pieces.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of some bigger reality checks for a lot of the analytical people that might be just listening into it. This will help you, give you a little bit more, like you said, you were searching up every AA help center process. Give me a book, give me 12 steps, something to give me that aha awareness, is what I call it. And you just really discovered on how much more you are able to use your feet and dig in to find steps when sometimes we're feeling like mountain goats climbing that shale versus it being just like flat ground and in sand. Sand
Yeah.
walking and uphill on shale are the same feelings because you don't know what's the mirage or how you're going to get up there.
Yeah. And I think for those people that really want those step by step processes, I guess my question to them would be, where did you lose the trust in yourself? And how do you get that back? Yeah. Because I think that that was a huge, I think the self love and self trust is, well, we talked about it on the podcast, the self love, like that's where it all begins. And everyone's like, oh, you're just gonna love yourself. Like, no, I'm not talking about like bubble baths and shit. I'm talking about, you gotta look yourself in the mirror and be like, there's some scary bits in there, but
Mm-hmm.
you're still worthy of love.
Yeah.
And when you do have that self love, you know that you can get through anything, and trust yourself and those soul knowings.
Mm-hmm. Um, Another layer that I just keep feeling that's just swirling in everybody's head is like, so how do you love after that? How do you actually
Mhm.
trust in this definition that fit all the perfect puzzle pieces? Now you're saying that there's this other person that's supposed to just fill this void forever and ever, amen. So how do you reclaim that foundation of connection?
I think everyone's going to have um, a different answer to this. But for me, I was stuck, and I was like, I already had such a hard time with love and trust because of my trauma and everything like that. And I think that my friend actually, I just really struggled with this. How do I give all of me to someone when I'm still in love with someone that died? Like, how do I love two men at the same time?
Mm-hmm.
How does this happen? And how is this fair? And maybe I should just be alone for the rest of my life. And my friend explained it so beautifully to me. She said, I haven't been in your situation, but I have had kids. And the thing is when I had my first son, I knew to my core that there's no way I could ever love someone more than this. There isn't. And then you know what happened? I had my second child, and I realized that I could. There is no limit to my love. And she said to me that, I have loved so hard and I have lost so hard. Therefore, I know the depths of love. Therefore, I am brave enough to love with my whole heart because I know what can happen and I still choose to do it. And I also know that I can't run out of love. It just keeps getting expanded. So I think that in times of devastation, when we really feel like we can't carry on and our lives will never be the same, it's true. Your life will never be the same. And there are still days where grief swallows me whole.
Mm-hmm.
But I also know that he taught me how to love. He taught me that I'm worthy of unconditional love. And I know that I am, I need to, I need to love like he did. And I need to keep on showing up and sharing that because the world is already such a dark place that we don't need more darkness. We just need to be brave enough to love, and I will do that because I wasn't brave enough when he was alive. And I'll never make that mistake again.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Oh, here we go again.
So that's my answer.
Yeah.
And I think that we all suffer loss in our life, and all of our losses look different, but it's it's like, and I got stuck in why me? Why me? Like, why are you taking the only man that has ever unconditionally loved from me?
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized that the universe is always conspiring in our favor. You know, I have to trust that. I have to trust that. And I have to believe in magic every fucking day, or else I'm not going to get out of bed.
Mm-hmm.
And it is. The universe has our back. And I just didn't see what was waiting on the other side of this. And it's not like one man was better than the other or anything like that. It was just like, now I see how it all fits.
And I just really want to honor that process of carrying on the legacy, because that's why we're gifted with our loved ones' medicines. That's a rite of passage. And so he trusted you in knowing that you would have been strong enough to continue that torch and to light miles along the way. And that's something so much deeper than just a ring, just a 25-year anniversary celebration with friends and family, because that love can now just ripple deeper, like this whole theme of today.
And it can prove to me that I'm not scared anymore. Like, I have went through the worst and I'm still here.
Mm-hmm.
So just keep on keeping on. Get out there and build your damn puzzles, guys.
You know, there's two quick little wrap ups for everybody about this too. Is just like, I think our hearts are kind of like a bumper sticker collection that we get to wear it and have that. It's not that actually it keeps the rust and the bumpers from falling apart. It will if it had to, but our hearts are not little pieces that we pick apart and start saying it's all gone. Your heart functions till the day you die, and once that last beat is, it is the last drum beat in other cultural teachings, that when that drum echoes for the last beat, it echoes further into it and will start another rhythm again, because that's still the last impact that that soul knows. Dun, 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 moving on to that tempo. And so I think that's where, you know, thank you for all the brave souls who are doing the work to love somebody else, and the brave souls willing to love somebody through the thick of that, and to honor that amazing partnership that you currently have at this time, because he's willing to be that rock and know that he's not shameful or belittling himself because he doesn't chalk up to this other person. That shows maturity and expansion and actual manhood and relationships and womanhoods about what intimacy and relationships actually coexist with.
And what a partnership really is. It's not, it's taking all of the person,
Yeah.
you know, and being there for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got some comments here again. You are such an inspiration. Bingo. And another lady just private message saying, there is nothing in this world that was going to prepare me, but your talk today has saved the day, knowing that another beautiful way, after so much heartache, ripped so much hurt and life from me, that I can actually live and breathe easier because of this today. So thank you. Everybody,
Oh, thank
real.
you. That's why we show up.
Yeah.
Oh.
Anybody catching it on replay, this is where I'm like, I can't even be a TV host. I would just ruin hair, makeup, and everything on this. So, wow.
No. Yeah, thank you for those comments, you guys. That's very it's obviously super vulnerable sharing your life story, and to know that it's made a difference even in one person's life. That's why we do it. That's it took me a long time to try and organize this and make it make sense, because it's just like you have to work through all of those negative beliefs to even get here. And to hear that, like, I can breathe a bit easier, I'm like, okay, those sleepless nights, that's where it's at. That's how we keep going and doing this and spreading that love and that light, because we can't do this alone.
No.
And I don't think that we need professionals telling us how to live. I think we need to learn through each other and through our stories. And yeah, that's why I'm just so grateful for this. Thank you, Shanice.
You're so welcome. And I think all of us have that reality check that sometimes our bar conversations, or that man that just was always at the dump, or the old lady who would just be at the post office, those are some of the people that made us realize there's more to this life than all the celebrities and the people we just try to idolize and keep up with. Maybe
Yeah.
start seeing who are the gracing earth angels that walk this planet, and be more conscious of those tokens versus trying to catch for bigger concerts and all the other bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah. There's magic all around us. But yeah, if this did resonate with you, or you want to take it any deeper, just please give me, I don't know, follow me or email me. I think I am in the middle of a rebranding, and I'm not taking any clients right now, but I always love chatting.
All I know is we have one heck of a journey, being so vibrated to New Zealand. So if you see postings of all of a sudden all of us girls getting together at New Zealand, just know why, because this is what you're gonna be dealing with.
See you soon.
I will look at old retirement funds and see if I've got any plane ticket money.
You never know. You just have to say, yeah, I feel like my soul calling's in New Zealand, and then watch the money appear.
Well, girlfriend, what a slice. What a
It's
slice.
been great.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And can't wait to hug you in person again soon.
Oh, yes. Yes. All right. Thank you guys so much. Take care. And yeah, reach out if you feel called to.
1000%. We'll have your contact info to just have a soulful chat.
Awesome. Thank you.